Okay, I am going to let you guys finish working on these for a few minutes, but we do have a lot to get through today, so I want to get through it as much and as quickly as possible. So as I explained to you guys before, I'm going to give you a few days to get your schedules down. I know a lot of people have issues with getting out of classes, getting their time in. The first week is really about getting used to the schedule and really getting used to the time. So I'll give you a bye this week. Next week, remember if you come in late, what happens the first time you come in late?
You get a card.
I'm going to give you the card. So I'll open the door, I'll give you a card, and what do you put on the card?
Why you were late.
Name, date, and why you're late. Good. You're going to give that to me. When you give that to me, or put it in the box is really kind of hard to reach right now. Everything in this room is really hard to reach right now. And we're hoping that settles down, but they just added like 3 more people. So maybe it won't. So you're going to fill out your information and let me know why. I'm going to give you that mom look like, you really need to stop being late. And then we're going to move on. So the second time it happens, what happens?
You need to leave because
You need to do the same thing.
you disturbing people.
That would be nice, but we're going to go through the same process.
Yeah.
This time I'm going to say, hey, remember this is your second tardy. So try not to do this again. So what happens the third time?
You go and talk to
You put the note in the box and
Good.
then you fill out the Tier 1 report.
So you're going to do the same thing with this, and I am going to report you to your coach. So you and your coach will have a conversation. Your coach is going to call you in and say, hey, this is not okay. Remember that this is your last chance, so you get one more chance. The fourth time that you come in, you will not be permitted to come in. So the fourth time you have a tardy, you're not going to be able to come in, but what do you have to do?
Go talk to your coach.
You're going to go talk to your coach, and you and your coach are going to sit down, and you're going to sign a contract with your coach. You guys are going to come up with an attendance agreement. If before that point your coach thinks that, hey, maybe we need to work out something a little bit different with your schedule, maybe you just can't get up this early. I was listening to the news today, and they were talking about how the world is just in shambles because we shouldn't be starting before 11 o'clock. I was like, heck yes, I agree. Because I don't like to start before 11 o'clock, but that's the reason that people are so agitated. That's the reason that people are not productive, because we should not be physically starting until 11 a.m. I'm okay with that, but it's not the world we live in. So the fourth time, you're going to have to report to your coach. You guys will have to sit down and sign an agreement. I will have to be there as part of that conversation. If you break that agreement, you're not in the class anymore. So you will not be officially withdrawn, so it will come up as an F in your class. We will not physically withdraw anybody from the class after the first week anymore. We were told we can't do that anymore. So no one will be physically withdrawn from the class, but you will get an F that will appear on your transcript until it disappears, until you take the class again and replace that. Okay?
It's still even harder.
It does make it even harder. All right, so what we're going to do today, we are going to go over some expectations. We're going to go over expectations that you guys should have of me and I should have of you. So we're going to talk about those things, we're going to go over those things, and then we're going to come up with a contract together. So with the expectations, we will go over those and talk about those as a whole class. The more that you help and talk through those ideas, the easier it's going to be. And then we're going to have some whole group instruction. So we are going to spend this week and the beginning of next week talking about active reading strategies. So just like with everything that you do, it helps to be more active than passive. And we're going to talk about what that means. And we're going to talk about what you do to understand material even better. So even if you understand it, how many of you feel like if I don't like it, I don't understand it? Okay, many people think if I don't like it, I'm not going to be able to comprehend it. I'm going to show you some strategies that will help you combat that, because there are a lot of things that we're going to have to read that you may not necessarily like. So we're going to work on the strategies that you can use to be successful. Again, these are strategies that you can use as you go throughout your entire academic career, but they're really going to be helpful when it comes to the ECA. So you want to pass the ECA, this is going to help you with that. And then we're going to do small group rotations. So you're not actually physically going to rotate because there are just way too many bodies in here. You are going to be working in your group. So your group is going to consist of those at your table. and you guys are going to be working on an assignment. So you guys are going to be talking about a couple of things. There will be no exit ticket, so once you guys are done, you guys will be done for the day. For those of you who are interested, student council meeting is at 12:30 today in the student success room over there. Okay? Any questions over what we're doing today?
Did you just say we got a meeting?
If you want to participate in student council, the student council meeting starts today at 12:30.
Alright, so that's for smart people, right?
Not necessarily smart people, it's just people that want to be productive and active members in the school.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. All right. So we're going to first come up with a list of expectations. I want to help you guys be successful, and I want to do everything that I can, but I also need you guys to do certain things. Most of you know that there are some things that other people do that annoy you and make it really hard for you to learn and for you to focus. So we're going to come up with a list of expectations today. A list of things that you need to do, but you want your classmates to do, and that you want me to do. So let's start talking about things that you feel like as a student you should do. What are some of those things that you feel like you should do?
Be respectful.
Okay, be respectful.
Listen to the teacher.
So in being respectful, what does that mean? Mike?
No talking while you're talking.
Okay, so is that just for me?
No, that's for everybody.
So let's think about this. So this group over here is going to end up kind of big because we got this extra table is kind of sticking out here. So this group over here is going to be kind of big. So let's say that Mike's talking about his idea and then Danielle interrupts. What is that going to do for Mike?
Yeah.
It's going to frustrate him. It's going to help him lose focus. He's not going to be able to concentrate. Good. So when we're talking about being respectful, we'll just say not interrupting anybody. So not interrupting others. And that we can include as not talking over people. So sometimes you think, oh, I'll just talk louder than them and that will work. No, that doesn't work. That's kind of the same thing. Mike?
Use the word rule.
Okay, so do unto others.
You want them to run you.
So when we think of doing unto others, so if you don't want punched in the face, don't punch somebody in the face, right? If you don't want your stuff taken, don't take stuff from somebody else. If you don't want somebody to tell you your idea is really stupid, don't tell them their idea is really stupid. Makes sense. What about me? Do you expect me to be respectful?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll own up to that. I'll be respectful.
No, be tough. It's funny.
Okay? I can be respectful, but also be tough as well. So I say this all the time. You guys are kind of like my kids, and I love my kids, but man, they test me, and I will take them to church quicker than they can think about it. So I will snap on them, and I will say, no, this is not going to work. But I'm not going to demean them. I'm not going to say, oh, man, you're so stupid. She's really, really not stupid. I'm not going to demean them. But I will try my best to keep them in line as much as possible. So I'm still going to be respectful. I'm not going to interrupt you guys when you're talking unless you're being disrespectful. I am going to try to treat you guys with the same respect that I would expect. Okay? So I'll do the same. What else?
Be understanding of us.
Okay, and what do you mean by that? Do you want me or?
A little bit of both, but
Okay.
my meaning was more like if we don't get the material and we need a little more explanation to go over it, or an example like this morning or like class, I was walking up at the door, you understood, I was running from class to class.
So you guys are going to expect me to be understanding. So I'm going to ask the same of you guys because again, I have 5 kids, 2 dogs that mean a lot to me, and I have a daughter in volleyball, a son in cross country. So if you turn your assignment in, know and be understanding that I'm not going to get it back maybe the next day. So if you all turn your essays in on time, that would be awesome. But I am not going to be able to get through 25 some essays in a 24-hour period. So if you guys can be understanding with me, I'll be understanding with you. And with this, I would tie in communication. So if you communicate, hey, my teacher let the class out late. That's happened. So if you communicate that with me, okay, I understand. Does that mean that it's always going to go the way that you want it to go?
No.
It doesn't. But it means that we've opened up that communication and we have an understanding with each other. So that may mean, and I'm not saying that I'm not being understanding in this situation, but maybe I say, okay, Ms. Rhea, you made your students late, so you can't do that. They need to get here on time too. We only have a certain amount of time. So maybe that opens up another conversation. So I'm going to communicate with you guys. What about you guys? Should you be communicating with me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you guys communicate with me, I'm going to continue to communicate with you. Going back to this understanding, and several students and I had this conversation last term. If you guys don't understand something, I can put it in different words, and I can use different terminology, or I can make some different parallels, so I can compare it to something else. But I can't do that if I don't know that you don't understand the material. So if you don't understand something, I'm going to try to explain it in a different way. I'll do everything that I can to try to explain it in a different way. But in turn, I would ask that you guys try things. So I would ask that you guys try different methods. Try the things that I suggest to you. So this is where a lot of students just say, nope, I can't do this. So if I say, hey, I need you guys to brainstorm. And you go, well, I don't know what brainstorming is. So I explain it to you, and you go, oh, I don't like that step. I'm not going to do that. What happens to our relationship and your understanding?
We all
We obviously didn't understand what you wanted us to do.
Is that the circumstance, or is there another circumstance?
If you're not going to help yourself, what's the point of you helping us? Because you already saying, like, I'm not going to do it, you know?
Okay. So that kind of conversation creates a block. And if there's a block there, then I'm not going to be able to help you. If you're not open enough to learning different methods and learning different things, I'm going to challenge you guys with some things. But if you're not open to that, then I can't help you. And maybe this isn't the right time for you. So I'm going to ask that you guys be open to trying things. Is that unreasonable?
No.
You guys are okay with that? Okay. So in respect of you guys doing that, I am going to try different methods with you guys. So if I know that you need something different, I'm going to try my best to give it to you in a different way. So I'm going to try different methods or approaches. Because it may be that you didn't understand it. It may be that you don't want to understand it, but it may be that you didn't understand it. So I'm going to try things a little bit differently. What else?
I'm sure, like if we do come to class late and say we are late, I mean, it's all about how you tell you the reasons why we're late and stuff like that. So basically, attitude.
Okay. So keeping an open mind, I would probably put that under being respectful and communicating. Being respectful is you talking to me, not at me. And I'm not going to talk at you, I'm going to talk to you. So what's the difference there?
One has an attitude and one doesn't.
Okay? What do you think?
I was gonna kind of say the same thing, like you're yelling at each other. But
The tone of your
you're
voice in a
talking
way.
to someone you're talking to, like a person, not like you're yelling at them like adult.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk over you. I'm not going to talk through you. I'm going to talk with you and have a conversation with you. So I'm going to do a couple of things. Now, this is just knowing people skills, and those are the PICA traits that are around the room in pink. But knowing how, what we call emotional intelligence, so knowing how to gauge other people. So I have a student who stands here when she talks to me. So she does this. Okay. Oh, I got a bubble here. You got to
Okay.
get out of my bubble. That's a little too close. but I know that that's her way of letting me know that she trusts me. So that's how she communicates with me. If you need to, it gives me goosebumps even thinking about it. If you need to get that close, communicate that with me in some way. So don't make it threatening. Don't just like walk up on me and, like you're getting ready to swing. I am from the North End, so you might have to get some of that. But approach me in a positive manner. Okay?
Yeah.
So approach me in a positive manner and do everything that you can to minimize that conflict that may exist by being positive about it. So talk to me. So say my name. Open up that conversation. Okay? So that will go under communicating and being respectful. Good. So what about being late? What if I came in 15 minutes late?
Yay.
If you were 15 minutes late, I would have left 5 minutes after I got here anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, why would you leave?
Because I was
we
tired of
didn't think you'd be
waiting.
here.
Yeah.
If you're not
Leave.
passionate in 15
It's
minutes,
different.
Unless you leave a note up there.
Yeah.
So what is it?
I'm gonna say it's different on your end than our end. When we're late, you can't leave. But if you're not here, I'm gonna book out.
Okay, so if I am late, what am I doing to your time?
Take it up
Wasting
time.
it.
I'm wasting your time.
There's more of us, so we're gonna move on without like a couple people.
Yeah, you may move on. I'm still here, but I would give you the respect of not being late. If I have to use the bathroom, I may be a minute late on occasion, but for the majority of time, I will not be late. And I expect you guys to do the same thing. Okay, so we've talked about this. We talked about this at length yesterday, but we do our best to be on time. Now, what happens if we cannot be? What happens if we have something in life that happens? What happens when something in life
We
happens?
contact.
What'd you do?
Contacts you.
You let me know. You communicate it. So if I'm going to be late, I may leave a note on the board. I may leave your assignment on the board. So I'm going to communicate, but I'm going to do my best to be on time. Now, what about each other? What happens, and those who were in my class last term, what happens when somebody comes in 40 minutes late?
That door's locked.
The door is locked. But what does it do if I let that person come in?
It interrupts everybody else.
It's going to interrupt your learning. So I need you guys to do your best to be on time.
Now, see, I don't see a student coming in the middle of class, an interruption to me. That's their downfall, not mine.
It is.
But it
So-
kind of make other people think it's okay
Yeah.
to do that.
Okay, well then that's their downfall, not mine.
Chris.
You know what I mean?
So Chris, last term you had several classmates one day. Are you listening to this? Because last term you had several classmates who trickled in. So a group of them trickled in at 10 minutes after. A group trickled in at 15 minutes after. A group trickled in at 30 minutes after. What was that like for you?
So they're disrespectful because every time someone came in, it interrupted our session.
So every time someone came in, I had to go
And open the door.
like this. Every time somebody came in,
She had
then
to call.
it interrupted their cycle. It interrupted everybody else's learning cycle. There was a group of 4 students who were here on time and who were on task. So every time, and there were 7 students who came in late that day. So when those 7 students came in, it was disrupting the 4 students who were on task and who were doing what they were supposed to. So it does disrupt other people. Oftentimes it makes people mad. It just shows them that you are not respecting the teacher, you're not respecting the learning environment.
Now, see, one of the main reasons that I enrolled here is because of y'all's motto. Anytime, any place, any pace.
Mhm.
If my life doesn't exactly work out perfect every day, you know what I'm saying? Things pop up. Or I have habits or things that I do that other people don't do. Smoking. Okay? If I don't go out on break, smoke my cigarette, I'm going to be irritable, aggravated, and snapping on people. You know,
So maybe
possibility.
it's not
You know
your
what I'm saying?
time. Maybe it's not your time. And that's what it boils down to. It's not always the appropriate time for everybody. I've had a lot of students in first and second period classes who work jobs. I have a student in my fourth period class who works midnights. And then she comes here for second, third, and fourth period classes. She is pregnant with her 5th child, has the other 4 at home. And she busts her tail to get here. She is going to be flat out exhausted. But she is ready. This is her time. So it may just be that this is not your time. So it is any time, any place, any pace. But you have to recognize that it's not always your time. Remember I told you guys about my brother? So my brother's not ready. He's getting ready to go back to jail too. So he's just not ready. This isn't his time. It's not his time to be in that environment. So he's not ready for it. It's not his time. It may not be your time. I know for many of you guys who were here last term, it was a really difficult adjustment going from 10-minute passing periods to 5-minute passing periods. So that was really difficult for a lot of students. But at the same time, when you're in the work environment, it's going to happen that way.
It's a little different making money working.
You are, and you're earning your grades here. You're getting your grades. Your grades are your pay for being here, for doing your work, for getting everything done.
And at the end, you get your credits.
And at the end, you get your credits.
And then your diploma.
And then a better job.
And then hopefully a better job, yes. All right, anything else? Okay. So, I'm going to call my husband. I'm just using my phone for a minute.
Can't do it.
That's not okay. If you are not focused and you're on your phone, it's the same thing with me. If I'm going to stop the middle of class and start having a conversation with my husband, that's not okay. That's not respectful.
I knew you was doing this, doing everything.
You guys think, man, she's crazy. So I'm not going to be on my phone.
He's like, let me call my husband too, girl.
So what does it do when you're texting someone? What does that do for the person next to you?
Distracting.
It is distracting. What about your music?
Well, depending.
Okay, so even though sometimes it may be enjoyable, sometimes it's not. So not listening to your music, not using your phone. I would ask that you guys all be respectful of each other and not do that. Is there anything else? Is any of this unreasonable?
No. And put on a happy face.
Okay?
I'm in a good mood.
Do unto others. Be happy. There we go. Put it over here. So, and again, it's about approach. So if you approach me and you're mad and you're angry and you're rude and you're obnoxious, that's what you're going to get back, because again, I'm from the north end of Cold Mountain. That's what I just have inside of me. So if you're respectful and you try to be happy, it doesn't have to be fake happiness. If you have something going on, I understand. If you approach me and let me know what's going on, I will do my best to help you out with that situation. Good. Anything else? We're good? All right, so I'm going to get a picture of it. So I am going to use this to create a contract for you guys and myself. All right, should have everything. Any questions over it? Well, that didn't work out.
It just didn't like a move.
Didn't. Okay, what we're going to talk about next are active reading strategies. So as we talk about these active reading strategies, it kind of goes in line with me asking you guys to try a couple of things. So you do not have to write this down, because I have a sheet of paper that you guys will want to keep as often and keep and refer to this as often as possible. So I'm not even going to try to get that file. It's too thick for that.
Can I get the survey?
Yes, I'll give it to you later on so you can fill it out towards the end of class. We're going to have some extra time today, so you guys will be able to do this. Okay. Yeah, there may be some extras, so I could pass those over if needed. Got them? Thank you. Okay, so anytime that you guys approach a reading, there are some things that you can do to start to activate your understanding of the material right away. So we're going to talk about what you can do to be what we call an active reader. So when you're active, what does that mean?
You're focused.
Okay, you're focused, you're what? Doing something, you're physically engaging in something. So in order to physically engage in something, we need to start by activating our prior knowledge. So when you engage in your reading, there are things that you do before you even start reading the information. So we're going to focus today on the before, but we're going to touch on during and after, and then we'll focus more on that later on. You will be tested over this. So I do want you guys to take some notes. I do want you to pay really close attention to this because you will be tested over this. Okay? So when we're an active reader, it helps us engage in understanding the material. So there are things that we do before we actually start reading. Whenever you get a book, what is the first thing that you do?
Look at the title.
You look at the title. Why? Okay, and what does the name of the book usually give you? Okay, it may give you some background on the topic. So when we're looking at the title, we're actually activating what we know about the topic itself. So maybe we know something about it, maybe we don't know something about it. But what we may know is significant. So we're going to practice with this as we're going over this skill. So I'm going to give you another piece of paper that we're going to practice with. And I want you guys to write on this, and feel free to write on this as much as possible, or as much as you want to. So the title of the piece that I just gave you is The Human Journey Migration Routes. So what do you think the human journey migration routes is about? Okay?
Population.
Okay, so we got migration, and that's in there. So if we were to take the idea of migration and simplify that or connect it to something we already know, what do we know about migration?
Population.
Movement? What do you mean populates?
More people, more animals, more people.
Okay, so maybe people do it, animals do it.
Yes.
So what migration is?
Yeah, what is migration?
Uh,
What do we know about migration?
well, it all depends on how you want to look at it. Birds migrate to warmer weather.
Okay, so we know birds migrate, and they migrate to get to a better climate. So what are some other reasons for migration?
We may migrate due to work.
Okay, so we may do it for work.
Weather.
The idea, weather. Yeah, that's what I want to do right now.
I'm glad I'm not in Florida right now.
Yeah, it's probably hot and humid.
Hurricanes.
Oh,
It's nice today.
Yeah, it's nice today, but for the last 2 weeks it's
I
been
know.
horrible.
My friend moved there and he just hit a boar with his brand new truck.
How
Not even
big?
24
How
hours. 320 pounds
Where on it?
in Florida. So we may move because we are going for work. As people, we may go because of work, we may go for weather. Animals go for weather. What are other reasons that we may travel? So we talked about migration as this idea of travel. What are some other reasons?
Vacation.
Okay, maybe vacation.
For work.
Okay, so we said work, maybe vacation. Any other reasons? Family. Okay, good.
Depending on where you're going, I mean.
Go study.
Adopt a child.
Because of the war.
Okay, so maybe some conflict that's going on.
You're going down there to study.
Okay, maybe a change. You need a change. So what is the routes
Resources.
part? What about the routes? What does that mean? Okay, so the way or the path. If you don't know what one of those words means, is it the end of the world? No. It does not mean that you won't understand the piece. It just means that you don't know that word. So if you don't know what migration is, try to connect it to something that you do know. If you don't have any connections, that's okay. Routes, if you don't have any connections to routes and you don't know what it means, that's fine. You're okay. You're not going to not understand the piece because you don't understand those two words. What about the human journey?
We're migrating right now.
Okay, so we are migrating right now. Explain it.
Like, we're migrating to a better life. Like, we're taking that route right now to go back to school, get our better education, to make our life better.
Good. So you guys are actually taking a human journey. You're coming to school. You're taking that path to a better education. Good. So you make connections. Are we talking about the birds migrating south for the winter?
No.
No. So we can eliminate ideas. We can eliminate thoughts and ideas because we have that second connection. This is what we call a two-part title. Two-part titles are used a lot in education. So when you have academic pieces, you typically see a two-part title. So the human journey, migration routes. So this is about the journey that humans take, or the path that they take to that better life, maybe that better life. Okay? You get all of that just from the title, if you sit and you think about the title. So this is what I'm challenging you guys to do. When you come across something that you don't think I'm going to want to read this, or you're struggling to focus, you could be tired, you just came from a test, you just came from another environment that wasn't so friendly or pleasant, and you come to something that you're like, I don't want to read this, or I don't want to look at this. Just start to dissect it. Start to take apart the pieces. So the second part of this is looking at the author to identify what we know about the author. So the author of this is National Geographic. So what do you know about National Geographic? Okay, it's a magazine and it usually has a lot of animals, nature, history,
geography.
A lot of geography. So out of those things, nature, animals, history, geography, out of those things, which ones can we probably eliminate based on the title? Animals, probably. So we may be dealing with some of nature, but most likely we're dealing with geography, and how do we know that? The routes, the migration routes. So it sounds like they're changing locations. So that's the geographical component of it. Good. So when we're looking at the author, we want to access what we know about the author. What if you don't know anything about the author?
Look it up.
Okay, what happens if you look up the author?
7 times.
Okay, what kind of information do you think you're going to get? Okay, you may hit Wikipedia first, so you may get biographical information about the person. You may also get reviews, other people's opinions on that person. So what if I told you guys, hey, we're getting ready to read a piece by William Shakespeare?
Please never.
Okay, and why do you say that?
It's terrible.
And why do you say he's terrible?
Because he talks
Depressing?
about love.
Love?
Sometimes hard to
I
understand.
don't understand them talk.
Okay, so he uses Middle English, so you may not understand what he's talking about because he uses a different style of English than what we're used to. So you know, you make a connection and you know that you don't like him. You don't feel comfortable with him. Good. So what if I said we're getting ready to read Emma Donoghue? What would you think? Who's that? Anything else?
Why?
What?
Why?
Why? Okay. So you may hit that with a few things, with a few authors. You know that Emma Donoghue is probably a female. Know anything else about the name Donoghue? I'm a Donoghue. It's what? Anybody know where it's from?
Right novel?
Donoghue? It's an Irish name. So Emma Donoghue is an Irish author. So you may make connections because you know certain things about that person. If you don't know anything about the person, then you just can't make any connections to that. But I want to caution you guys against looking up that person because you may get other people's views on who that person is. It's kind of like a movie. If you look at the reviews, you may not want to go to the movie because you get those reviews. So you may get reviews like William Shakespeare gets. This sucks. I don't want to read this. So you may have impressions that you put on it because of that. What's the difference between one author and 12 authors?
More of a variety.
Okay, more of a variety in what?
Titles and authors of reading.
Okay,
The types of writing.
the types of writing, the styles of writing may be different. What happens when you have more opinions?
You got more information.
Okay, it's usually more formal because opinions don't typically mesh well. So we may have 12 people in a room who think the same thing, but they say it very differently. So when you have more authors, you typically get more fact-based information. Good. So this is, again, we haven't even gone into the document. We haven't even read it. Now, for some of you, you may say, I just want to read it. I just want to read it and then look at the questions. Or some of you may do. You may look at the questions and then read it. Yeah. You're not accessing your knowledge of the information, and you're not increasing your comprehension doing it that way. And you're actually narrowing your comprehension by looking at the questions first, because then you focus on just those questions. So the next step in this, and the last one that we'll talk about today, is previewing the piece. So when we preview the piece, we may look at the first paragraph, the last paragraph, the first sentence, the last sentence. Why would we look at the first line or first sentence or paragraph?
Because it may be the main idea.
Okay, the main idea is usually in the beginning and the end, and or the end. So if we look at those, we usually get a pretty good idea of what it's about. So the piece that I gave you guys, one species is an African one. Africa is where we first evolved and where we have spent the majority of our time on Earth. Okay, does that connect to what we thought about the migration routes? Maybe, but not super directly. Like, it doesn't say anything about routes there. It doesn't say anything about humans. It just talks about our species. So it's a little difficult.
About that we started there.
Okay.
So it tells me that it's going to continue on to where we're going and where we might end up.
Okay. So if we go to the last sentence, there are many human journey questions waiting to be asked and answered. So does that connect more to the title?
Yeah.
It does. And it shows us that this piece may be a little bit more about the human journeys, the questions that have been asked. And it may start with Africa. So this piece itself may start with that journey in Africa, and then it may have some unanswered questions. So we're making some connections here. The subheadings. You guys do not have subheadings in this, but I wanted to show you what subheadings look like. So this is my master's thesis. This is the book I wrote to get my degree. So under this, I have subheadings. This was something that I did with my students. So under this subheading, benefits, what do you think everything under that subheading is going to be about?
Everything that you wrote about.
Under the subheading benefits.
Like what,
It's going to be about benefits of something.
like what you expect from that, wherever you're working.
Okay, so maybe some benefits from where you're working. What about the title terms? What do you think is going to be under that? Different terms. Okay. Subheadings give you an idea of what the whole piece is going to be about. So they give you a taste of what it's going to be about. Bolded words. So there are several bolded words in this passage. Bolded words are kind of like the author saying, hey, pay attention. So they use the bolding to emphasize those pieces. Bolded words are very important. So the words that you see that are bolded, Homo sapiens, paleontological, intrepid, foray. What kind of words in this instance are bolded? Vocab. Good. So oftentimes the words that are bolded are vocabulary words.
They're very, very important.
They are very, very important. The author has said, hey, I'm going to change what I'm doing to show you that this is so important. We also sometimes see italicized words. So italicized words are kind of like when somebody whispers to you. They want you to know that information, but it's not as significant as those bolded words. So think of italicized words as the author saying, hey, this is important. Kind of like them whispering to you.
Keep it in mind.
You need to keep it in mind, but it's not as important as the bolded words. Good. Any questions on what we're doing before we actually start reading? No? So here's a challenge for you guys. I'm going to challenge you guys to keep these things and not lose them. So keep this document. We're not doing anything else with it today. And keep the reading strategies document. Keep these with you and bring these back tomorrow. We're going to go over these more tomorrow. Okay, what you guys are going to do now, at your tables, you guys are going to have an assignment. So you and your table mates will be talking a little bit about a couple of topics. As you guys talk about these things, I'm going to have you do it individually and then as a group, and then we're going to do it as a whole class. So on this assignment sheet, at the very top, it asks you to plan. What makes a successful civilization? It's hard to say. So I want you to think about what you think makes a successful civilization. So what are we talking about when we talk about civilization? Okay.
What environment you live in?
The environment, the group of people, the social structure of people that are around. Good. So when we think about civilization, think about what makes one successful. So if you feel like you have found a successful environment, think specifically about that successful civilization. So that specific environment. So you're going to think about this by yourself first, and there's a spot for you to plan out whatever your ideas are. You can make a list, you can write sentences, you can write a bunch of sentences into a paragraph. You can draw a picture. I don't care what you do here. As long as you have something here that connects to what you think a civilization is. Once everybody at your table is done, then you guys are going to talk about it as a group. And you guys are going to come up with a definition for civilization, a successful civilization. And then we're going to come together as a group and we're going to refine those definitions. You're going to do the same thing on the back. So on the back, it looks at what makes a good leader. So think about good leaders that you know. And they can be good leaders temporarily, and then they have a downfall. But I want you to think about what qualities and characteristics those leaders have. So the first part you'll do by yourself. The second part you will do with the rest of the group. You work with them. Mike, I'm going to have you work with the guys, okay? So start with the civilization and then move on to a leader. Remember, the first question is by yourself, and then the second question is your table. So you can work with that group if you want. Yep. And start with civilization. If you guys could start with civilization, the first question is by yourself.
Which one are we starting on, the civilization one?
Yes, please.
As a director, how would you define as successful? So basically, how
For for brainstorming something, like the successful civilization, being located like near food or water, multiple families or groups in the same colony.
So the food and water, successful ones, so ones that work. So if you said resources, that would include things like the food and water. If you think about society and you think specifically about like the social structure,
That total like job titles, specific set jobs, set work.
and that's what you guys agree on? Yep. That works.
Well, that'd be resources. Your resources, you automatically.
that help make the community better.
Question for you. Can I Google for ideas?
No, I don't want you to Google for ideas. I want you guys to rely on each other.
That's why we're here.
I want you to think about different ideas. So you guys have started conversations already, and you don't have to have a list of everything.
Just a couple.
Just a couple of things.
So.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be everyone. Yep.
Okay, are we ready for that? Yeah.
Okay, so think, I want you guys to think about what so what's going to be what makes a good leader? So
I'd say
Corey has a list of things
like
that are going to help society be successful.
or
So I want you guys to think of things
somebody
that are necessary.
Somebody who can step up.
Yeah. Okay, so what is absolutely necessary?
A form of courtesy.
And it takes leadership.
I'm gonna put form of training.
What you have is good stuff. Okay. And then I want you guys
Trade
to
like harder, trade something.
yeah.
Yeah, after this.
Yeah, you guys don't do step 3 yet. We're going to do that as a whole class, okay? No, there's a step 3 on both of them.
Yeah. Okay. So someone accepts that they take responsibility.
Are we supposed to go ahead and do the bags or when?
You can do the back. Yep.
Responsibility.
Yeah, right?
You okay? Yep, okay. I knew that was going to happen. Hey, I don't have a Lee Anthony in here, right? Jordan Beard? Skylar?
Like, you basically have the same question twice there. Step 1, you got what makes it
Step 1 was supposed to be by yourself, brainstorming ideas by yourself. Step 2 was talking about it together.
As a group,
But that's not what the instructions were for. That's what I said. So just write that in a complete sentence. Do that for step 2. Just write it into a complete sentence. Make it, refine it a bit. Do I have everyone's survey? Yeah. Alec.
I didn't answer one of my questions on there.
Thank you.
Thought you'd rather take the paper out
Oh, thank you.
She crazy. It still ends up like a whole after. And I started on coding in it. All my friends were it was like so many people. I don't know where. Like they come from the neighborhood. This is what happened. My neighbor, but when I came out there to go to the store, it was like, then when I came out, I see No, not the girls.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna give you something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Top five, I like that answer.
We're in groups.
What's that? But just like she said, I didn't read the instructions.
Discussing possible resource.
Right now. Are you guys doing okay? Yep. Then you guys go back. Nope, but you
She verbally told us. None. RESOURC. I was Googling how to spell resource for you. Because I wasn't sure myself. You want to see? Resource.
Okay, take a couple of minutes and come up with what you guys as a group think is included in a successful civilization and makes a good leader. And we are going to isolate the qualities and characteristics. So focus in on what specific qualities and characteristics help those two things run. Okay? We're going to do both. We're going to do number 3.
Different positions.
Are you guys doing both of yours? Chris, is your group done? Alex, you have your stuff? You have your stuff?
I can't think of the term. What would the terminology? I mean, I know I've seen leaders up there, and like, what would the terminology be that we could use for the someone that would like basically president, assistant president, you know, someone that deals with the finances, trade, stuff like that. What?
Those are different officer positions.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
Your group's good. Nathan, is your group good?
Okay.
Maddie, is your group?
If we live there, we professionally there. We could. She's just gonna let you crazy, like, yeah,
You're supposed to watch, you're supposed to look at part of the
there you go.
Don't
I'm gonna sit here and listen now.
When they're talking, that's why.
In certain cultures, it's considered offensive to look at people. So, but in our culture, yeah, you usually do.
Okay,
Are
so
you from there?
No, but I see how you was looking, so I knew it was something that she was looking like that for some reason. But then listen, man, you don't do that. It's a difference when you look at somebody.
Okay, so if you are finishing this up, you can take a couple of minutes and finish this up, but we are going to come back together and talk about the qualities and characteristics that help make first a successful civilization. So in order to have a civilization that works and functions, what are some things that you need to have? What did you and your group members think you needed to have? Dalton?
Communication.
Okay, communication. So what do you mean by communication? Let's expand on that.
Like, you can't be making, like, understanding. No, just like the whole democracy. You can't just up and make up a rule
Yeah,
or a
that's what
law.
I'm thinking, like a government structure.
Yeah, you gotta have like
That's what I was more looking
everybody
for when I
come
was.
into agreement and stuff.
Okay, So,
For the most part,
so you're thinking specifically of a democracy with the communication. So everyone needs to have a say. Is that what you're kind of, okay? What else, Mike?
Some form of resources near, whether it be agriculture, water, river, lake, hunting, knowing that there's animals in the area.
Okay, so there needs to be some kind of physical resource that is available or that people can have access to. Good.
Some form of trade.
Okay, so they can then use those resources as well for trade. So why is the system of trade important?
Because your civilization may not be able to get something that another civilization can, that they need something that you may have.
Good. We're going to actually talk a lot about that as we go throughout the term. We're going to talk about groups of people who have resources that are different from other groups of people and how those two manage to play, or the two or more, manage to play on what they do have and focus less on what they don't have. So it does introduce the idea of trade. Do we just trade things?
No.
What else do we use to trade?
Spices.
Currency or money. So trade also introduces the idea of currency. And it is a form of trade. It is a form of trade. You give me money for something. It is a form of trade, but it also introduces that idea of money, of financial resources. Good. What else do we need for a successful civilization? Dalton?
Rules, certain boundaries.
Okay.
No.
Rules or
No.
laws. Good. Laws. Rules and laws. So why are those so important? Why are those necessary?
Going up and jacking someone's stuff, or like someone going up and killing someone.
Okay.
That,
So
you don't want no like incest in there.
if we don't have the laws,
That's messed up.
so it's more probably focused on what happens if we don't have the laws. What happens if we don't have the laws? People are going to go crazy. There's going to be chaos. So all of these systems that have been set up don't even matter if there are no laws to enforce them. So who is going to enforce the laws? Okay?
I'm going to say some form of government structure.
So the government leaders.
Just tell me, I know it'd be bad. Cause you wouldn't want to face another
Principles.
So we need a form of government or a system of leaders because we need to enforce the laws. But why else do we need those leaders?
We doing this with this step 3.
Mike? Yep, this is step 3.
If the world goes to crap, at least somebody's gonna be able to step up and try to put that together.
Okay, so not everybody is a good leader.
Not everybody may agree on it, and they need someone to make the final decision.
So we need a group of people who are going to step up and who are going to lead the groups and make those decisions. So a system of leaders introduces that idea, that concept.
I kind of disagree with the whole, like, you got one leader to make decisions, because that sounds more like, communism, or not communism, but it's like that one leader state that, like, the majority doesn't make the decision, just the
Right.
one
And
society does.
But is that not still a form of a community?
It is, but I mean, that one person making the decision without the majority rule, I mean, I just don't find that fair and to make up.
I can understand that.
okay,
I can understand
and
that.
we are going to actually focus on that a lot this week and into next week. We're going to talk about leaders who take that control by themselves and who don't have a group. They don't have a form of government. It's completely a monarchy. So they are in control, and that is it. They are the only ones in control. So with that in mind, what makes a good leader? What qualities make up a good leader? Yes?
Loyalty.
Okay, so why do you think loyalty is important?
Because, like, you need to have trust in that person. Like, I mean, it is, it's like, I can't really explain it.
So what's the benefit of having loyalty?
Well, what I was going to say is, how can you trust, or how can you have trust with someone that's not going to be loyal to what you want, or you be loyal to them if they don't trust what you want.
Okay? So it becomes this kind of checks and balances system. If you trust in your leader is then going to trust in you. And that goes back to the system of democracy. So your leader is going to listen to you if you do what your leader tells you to do. So it becomes this checks and balances. Good. In addition to it being that checks and balances, how does it make you feel when someone trusts in you?
You feel better.
Okay?
You feel strengthened.
You feel responsible.
You feel responsible. So then you start to take ownership over whatever it is that they're trusting you with. So if they're trusting you to be a voice, then you're going to start to be that voice. So you're going to fulfill whatever they trust in you in. But we oftentimes also screw that up. So sometimes they may trust in us and we just mess that up. That happens a lot in my house. So I trust people with my kids with stuff and then they mess it up. They may do it okay, but they usually mess it up, their kids. So we get a bit of checks and balances, but then they start to take ownership. Good. What else makes a good leader?
Strong mind.
Okay. So a strong mind. What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, somebody that's, like, that can think for herself and others, like, I don't know, like, for example.
I'm gonna say well educated.
Okay.
Somebody smart, yeah.
So a couple of things here. So when we talk about strong-minded and getting back to what you were saying, if you have a leader who can take all of the ideas of everybody and put that into something that the majority can agree upon, that's, I think, where you were going with that, right?
Yeah,
So that is a skill of communication as well as being well-educated. So when we talk about well-educated, let's think about education. Is education always a formal environment? No. How else can you be educated? In your experiences. So in your experiences, you can also be educated. So you want somebody who has experiences as a leader, or you want somebody who has the education. It's best to have both, but there aren't classes on being leaders necessarily. There are actually, but you don't necessarily take that class, but you may have experience. What else? Okay, so back to responsibility. So why is that important? Why does that matter? To have somebody who's going to take responsibility.
Yeah, like, it matters because some people don't think for themselves, you know, so you can be responsible for yourself and other people. It's like, you like a steady, you like a steady source to come to, like a God in some type of way.
Okay. So when you are responsible, as a leader, if you are responsible, then people are going to trust in you and they're going to come to you. They're going to expect that you're able to take their ideas and communicate them more effectively. Good. And that kind of hones in on all the skills that we've talked about so far. Anything else that you think needs to be on this list? Does it matter if your leaders have millions of dollars?
No.
No. We don't need a bunch of Donald Trumps. So it doesn't necessarily matter if they have resources, as long as what they do have makes them a strong leader for a community. And all of these skills are really talking about what they can do for a community. So we are going to spend this term talking about these ideas of what makes successful civilizations and what legacy do those successful civilizations leave. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by the legacy that they leave? Okay.
Caesar.
Okay, so we are left with parts from others that then carry on into other areas and other aspects. Good. And leaders who do it wrong, and they are bad, and they are not good at all, and they really screw a lot up, and then what makes those leaders better? What makes them improve? Okay, what's that? Experience, and that is one of those things that we're definitely going to talk about. Okay, so you guys have a couple of minutes left. What I need from you is this paper that you just filled out.
You were supposed to do both sides, the leader side too?
Yep. Yep.
The leader side too?
Yep. So pass those up if you could. Make sure your name is on it.
Because I asked you when you handed this out, are we doing the civilization side or the leader side?
I
You
said
the
civilization first.
Right.
Whenever. So can we gotta turn this in now? Or
Yep.
we can't turn it in later?
No, I need it now.
I mean, I'm coming back to
Well, I
school
misunderstood
like-
your instructions, I'm sorry.
So again, as we talked about yesterday, remember that these are daily activities. These daily activities go into how much of your grade? Like 15%.
It ain't
Yeah.
gonna kill me.
It's not going to kill you if you don't get everything done perfectly.
Well,
And a lot of this, so last thing guys, so I have like 5 minutes here. So a lot of this is me seeing where you guys are at and how you guys communicate as a group. So I need to see, this is a lot of me checking. So the very beginning of the term is a lot of me seeing how you guys function, how you guys don't function. Okay? Have a great day. If you're coming to the student council meeting, it's at 12:30 in the student success room.